In November of 2025, the website Eurogamer published a review of the new video game Arc Raiders. In the review, the writer, Rick Lane, is extremely positive. He seems to like the game a lot, but at the end, he says that he cannot recommend it. This is because of the developer Embark's use of artificial intelligence technology. Now, there are two distinct types of AI that Arc Raiders advertises. The first is a machine learning algorithm that helps direct NPCs on how to traverse terrain and interact with the players. In Lane's opinion, this is fine, and I agree. The basic concept of artificial intelligence has been integral to the history of video games. Like, when you're playing a shooter, you want the enemy to know when to duck and cover and when to go after you. When you're playing a Pokemon game, you want the enemy to know which moves to use on your Pokemon that will hit the hardest. It's what makes games fun and challenging, and what Arc Raiders is doing with this is just an evolution on that concept. The second, however, is the use of voice-to-text lines for the NPCs. According to the studio, this is meant to save time. They can add new lines to the games almost instantly without having to get a voice actor into the studio. But by making this voice, Lane argues that they have sacrificed quality, writing that the voices are aggressively mediocre and a stain on the experience. While speaking characters are mostly limited to traders, when you do speak with them, their voices are flat and emotionally blunted, aside from the occasional bizarre inflection that reveals their robotic roots. It's telling that the sole memorable character in Arc Raiders is a rooster, incapable of speech. Lane continues to point out that Arc Raiders has been so successful and has made so much money at this point that they definitely have the budget to keep a roster of voice actors basically on call. An article by Maddie Agnew on This Week in Video Games gets into this further, interviewing voice actors who estimated the process of recording and adding a new chunk of voice lines into the game would take 4 hours max, and at a negligible cost difference. Personally, I think it sucks that they haven't changed their approach to voice acting. One of my favorite games of 2025 was The Root Trees Are Dead, where you investigate the mysterious past of a wealthy family. The original solo developer, Jeremy Johnston, is not a visual artist, and so when it was originally put out as a browser game, all the art meant to be photos of the family members was generated in Midjourney. Johnston did not charge money for the game and never expected it to get much traction. However, when it was a minor hit, fellow developer Robin Ward reached out to Johnston to help him rework the game for commercial release, which included hiring an artist. Henning Ludvigsen redid all of the AI-generated images, and this was absolutely the correct decision. Even if for some reason I was completely fine with buying a game that used so much AI art, the game is objectively better with Ludvigsen's illustrations. Not only is there so much more consistency between images meant to be photographs of the same character, there is so much more depth and life to these pictures.
Hi, Jules in the edit here. I wanted to update that, according to Embark Studios head Patrick Soderlund, as of March 13th, 2026, a lot of the AI voice lines in Arc Raiders have been replaced. We re-recorded some of the lines post-launch and made them with real voices. There is a quality difference. A real professional actor is better than AI. That's just how it is. However, went on to say, we look at AI first and foremost as a production tool. We can test things internally. We can test 15 different lines without recording them, and then we know what to record. It's also a way for us to work, not replace actors. We don't necessarily believe in replacing humans with AI all the time. Okay, man. I mean, you know that, like, you could say them, right? Like, you could do the test voices, like, you don't need to do AI voice generation if they're placeholders. You can just do it. You can do it, man. What is this? Like, you have the budget now to hire voice actors to replace everything. But instead, you're bragging about making the game on the quarter of a budget of most AAA games. And I'm just imagining, like, a voice actor showing up at the Embark development studio and saying, hey, I would love to re-record your lines. And this Patrick guy just going up to them and saying,
that's it. You need to leave. We'll be fine. You should just go.
The 2005 video game Façade begins with your old friend Tripp inviting you over to his apartment to have drinks with him and his wife Grace, who you introduced to him back in the day. When you arrive, things go downhill quickly. Grace and Tripp have obvious problems in their marriage that they can't help but bring up at any opportunity, and it's clear they're both trying to get you on their side. As the player, you can interact with items in their apartment and type your own dialogue. Then the game parses your words and actions using an innovative form of natural language processing that developers Michael Mateus and Andrew Stern called the Drama Manager. Before creating Façade, Mateus was a PhD candidate interested in the creation of intelligent digital avatars that users could form intellectual and emotional bonds with. Stern was a game developer who had worked on a few games in the Pet series, which I personally was very excited to learn. I remember playing a ton of Pets 4s on my parents' dinky computer as a kid. The artificial intelligence of these wonderful, crunchy creatures was really endearing. I love these little guys. In a sense, the two were working on the same type of thing, and when they met at an AI research conference, they decided to work on a project together, which would eventually become Façade. When I was reading press about Façade from the time, I found myself rolling my eyes a lot. There's a lot of talk about how, before now, video games have been about punching and fighting and explosions and hot girls with polygonal boobs shooting awesome guns. But what if a video game could be art? What if they could make you feel things? What if they had beautifully written stories and characters? What if they were like movie? I especially felt this reading an article written for The Atlantic in 2006 by Jonathan Rauch called Sex, Lies, and Video Games, where Rauch, a self-proclaimed non-gamer, spends a lot of time talking to Mateus and Stern about the creation of Façade. Rauch goes to E3 and is dazzled by the spectacle, but as Stern says to him, there's no drama genre, there's no comedy genre. What exists right now are action movies, basically. Later in the article, in order to catch up on modern video games, Rauch boots up The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion and writes, entering the game, I was at first mystified and frustrated, but before long I was slaying goblins and pilfering valuables and casting spells and exploring caves. As the hours went by, I felt myself drawn in, then immersed, then reluctant to leave. I felt like I was in the presence of a powerful medium, nothing like Tetris. But then it would all collapse. Approaching one of the characters, I would click for dialogue. The character would give a little canned speech introducing itself. In response to another click, it would mouth several bits of pre-recorded dialogue. State-of-the-art games render action and environments with eerie realism and genuine aesthetic distinction. But their characters are dolls, not people.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
I have to be frank. This aspect of Rauch's article pissed me off. Because what do you mean? This is 2006. At this point, there were 4 Silent Hills, 3 Metal Gear Solids, 12 Final Fantasies. There was plenty of storytelling in video games, plenty of heart, plenty of memorable characters and emotional stakes. What do you mean there's no comedy games? Tulip came out in 2002. This article cites David goddamn Cage as an innovator. The guy had just put out Indigo Prophecy, and he's trying to tell me video games need better stories? Why don't you go? But then I calmed down. I took a step back, and I looked up information about E3 2006. I looked up what games were being promoted, and okay, I get it. Well, there's some exceptions. Games like Okami, Alan Wake, Rule of Rose, etc. I get how you could walk around that show floor and feel like you're surrounded by all style, no substance. Purely from a mainstream, US-centric perspective, it would be easy to feel like there's a lot to be desired. And arguably, what Mateus and Stern were attempting with Façade was incredibly unique. It was meant to feel as though you were part of a stage play. The game even generates your script as a text file when you finish the playthrough. The artificial intelligence technology they had developed was like nothing you could find in any other game. It was objectively pretty cool. The game was rewarded with positive press and plenty of awards that I think it deserved. But the reason most people know about Façade is because it didn't really work.
See, Grace, that's ridiculous. The only thing I'm afraid of is their bad taste might rub off on us.
Are you ashamed of them?
Aha!
Gonzalo, you're saying I'm afraid?
No. Oh my
Whenever-
god.
No.
When I say Façade didn't work, I'm not saying the tech was broken or glitchy. It all worked exactly how it was supposed to. But even Rauch can tell that the dramatic simulation can be frustrating. Frustrating because, for all their innovative AI-driven mechanics, Grace and Trip remain too dumb to sustain the illusion of humanness. They really only guess at a player's meaning, and they don't guess very well. Façade feels like the small-scale, no-budget, first-try research project that it is. Another reason, which I don't see talked about nearly as much, is that the script is bad. I love it, but it's bad. For all their technical prowess, I wouldn't say Mateus and Stern are writers. The dialogue is extremely clunky, and the specifics of Trip and Grace's marital problems can get kinda silly. Some of the stuff could hit home, like Trip's dismissal of Grace's love of painting, but it gets to the point where he is actively saying he could not marry an artist. An extreme overreaction. I can see what they were trying to do, and people can have arguments about the most ridiculous things, like redecorating or
My goddamn advice ball. I like my advice ball. It's just this little thing I like, but you reject it. You hate it because I like it. My goddamn advice ball. I like my advice ball. It's just a little thing I like, but you look down on it like it's some sort of low-class piece of shit.
But the way that Trip and Grace argue is just not very realistic, even outside of the technical limitations. I will say that their voice actors are giving it their all. Chloe Johnston and Andy Biades know that they're in a ridiculous soap opera, and the game would not be half as memorable without their insane line deliveries.
Oh, Gonzalo, that's...
What? Are you talking about
I wasn't talking about you.
Well, Façade was notable at the time for the incredible things it achieved. As the years have passed, people remember it for its quirks, oddities, and failures. And to me, that's what makes the game great. In fact, I'd like to offer a new perspective on this game. I'm gonna get a bit personal and read you a section of my autism evaluation report. Julia had the tendency to quickly say, as the evaluator spoke, which was interpreted as her wanting to skip the information. On occasion, the evaluator asked if Julia already knew the information, but she answered that she did not. When I read this sentence, it floored me. This is something I was completely aware that I did when in social situations, especially when having things explained to me. But in my mind, chiming in with a yep, yeah, was me indicating that I was following along with what the other person was saying. And I'm sure there are plenty of people in the past who have interpreted that way. But for the first time, I realized that there have been situations where my habit, my active choice, has come across as rude, and I had no idea. And that's what playing Facade is like. You say something that you're sure is correct that will help improve the situation, and Trip and Grace just stare blankly at you. Or worse, they take things the opposite of how you meant them. You say Trip needs to take a step back and Grace thinks you're saying she's overbearing. So you make small talk, pick up one of their crusty PNG tchotchkes, ask about the magic 8-ball, and it just makes things worse. You have to gamify your interaction, try to figure out the right thing to say at the right time, and no matter how much you overthink it, you might leave the place worse than you found it. Because the name of the game has always had a double meaning. Grace and Trip are putting up a very flimsy facade of a happy marriage, but you as the player are choosing what to think about them if you want to play a character, and seeing if you can push through the frustrating differences between your brain works and theirs. After all, what the game calls a facade could just as easily be called a mask. I watched an interview with Michael Mateus and Andrew Stern that was done in 2024 by the YouTuber Cressup, and it was really enlightening. Almost 20 years out from its release, Mateus and Stern have a very strong understanding of why the game has stuck with people, and they talk very openly about the way advancements in artificial intelligence, including large language models, could be implemented in a game like Facade. In fact, during this interview, they announced that the long-awaited follow-up to Facade, The Party, is finally back in development. That worries me. Not because I'm automatically assuming the worst of Mateus and Stern. I think there are hundreds, even thousands of developers, artists, and voice actors who would love the opportunity to be hired on Façade's sequel. I think a Kickstarter of some sort would do extremely well. I think if approached in an ethical way, the two could make use of technological developments in language processing that wouldn't replace the work that people are ready, willing, and able to do. I'm not going to say what exactly they should do because I am nowhere near educated enough. I haven't spent 20 years in the field like they have. But still, I'm nervous, because at this point neither Mateus nor Stern seem to be video game guys. According to the website for Andrew Stern's company Playable Studios, most of what he's worked on since Facade is AR, VR, and AI tech, including stuff that has implemented GPT. Meanwhile, Michael Mateus has been a professor at UC Santa Cruz. They don't really make video games. And to be honest, I'm not sure they ever wanted to, and that's fine. What I hope they know is that whether they like it or not, Facade is a video game. The Party will be a video game. Facade has a special place in the hearts of so many gamers, myself included. And if they don't understand that, well... The 2025 Game Awards were swept by Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I haven't played it, but I've heard great things and I'm sure it deserves accolades. Weeks later, it also won 2 categories at the Indie Game Awards, but the show rescinded them days later. The IGA had decided that the game's use of AI-generated art as placeholder assets, one of which fell through the cracks and was left in the finished game, disqualified it completely. Now, its use of AI-generated placeholder assets was widely known before this event, so it's a bit odd it took them until after to make this decision, but I don't know. This came 2 days after it was announced that Larian Studios was using generative AI during its development of its upcoming game Divinity, which was met with huge backlash. Larian CEO Sven Vinke responded on the website formerly known as Twitter, saying no, they weren't using generative AI for concept art, they were using it to find references for concept art. Never mind the fact that doing that exact research is a huge part of a concept artist's job. I'll link a really good article again from This Week in Video Games in the description that gets into that further. And not long after the incident with the Indie Game Awards, an article was published on the gambling advertisement website wearing the skin suit of the escapist, declaring that this uproar was ridiculous. I mean, all video games use AI, and what this means is that the AI salesmen have succeeded in muddying the waters as to what game AI actually is. When I see people say they don't want AI in games, I know what they mean. And these hucksters do too. Don't let these people proclaiming that there has always been AI in video games gaslight you into thinking what they're selling is normal. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about Façade's AI, because it's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to be paraphrasing a lot from Tommy Thompson's article on Game Developer, and it's a great read that goes into a ton of detail and tech jargon that I can't even begin to pretend I understand. I'll try to put it simply. When you're playing Façade, you're really playing two games at once, the affinity game and the therapy game. The affinity game tracks which character you seem to sympathize with more, and for me, that's usually Grace because I support women's rights and women's wrongs. The affinity game has a sort of sub-game called the hot button game, which is tracking what subjects are coming up, like the vacation to Italy, Grace's decorating, or the advice ball. The therapy game involves stripping Grace's mindset. It's seeing if you're giving them advice that's helping them to introspect and boosting what is basically a self-realization meter. It's also measuring the tension in the room between all three characters, yourself included. The pace of the dramatic beats of the story is controlled by the drama manager. Quoting Thompson, "In amongst this is the action behavior language ABL, pronounced ABLE, which encodes not just the reactions and dialogue chosen of each character in specific situations, but also how they position themselves around the room, interact with world objects, and behave in a way that fits with what the drama manager wants to occur." I found a paper written by Matthias and Stern that presents and explains the ABLE. So how it works is, look, I don't know, man. I was a film major. All I know is Matthias was part of early 2000s research at Carnegie Mellon University called the Oz Project that was working on building believable AI agents and dramatically interesting micro-worlds that involved these guys called the Woggles, and I love them dearly. If anyone can track down one of these postcards, the Woggles postcards, I want one, please. In the end, what I'm trying to say is that the tech used in Façade is not the same thing as the tech used in generative AI character chatbots today. Think about this. If I'm asking a chatbot to play a character, or opening up something like Character AI to find a bot specifically programmed to play that character, I'm not going there to be uncomfortable. I want to come out of that conversation satisfied. I want my boyfriend Shadow the Hedgehog to give me a virtual kiss on the forehead and tell me that my feelings are valid. And that's what chatbots are meant to do. They're supposed to be frictionless, comfort you, affirm you, fulfill your desires, sometimes to a dangerous extent. They're everything that I don't want in Façade. Grace and Trip are, frankly, unpleasant people. They're both cheating on each other. They're both extremely classist, though for Trip it is an internalized classism. They both hate every single thing that the other one likes. When you talk to them, you're a sounding board for their frustrations, or a chess piece in the game they're playing with each other. They're not there for you, you are there for them. And I just don't think a full-on Gen AI chatbot can play that role. Façade is a game built on artificial intelligence. It also takes up about 1 gigabyte of space on your hard drive. It's not destroying communities. It's not ruining the world. It's not the same. Like, okay, let's roleplay a generative AI salesman going back in time, trying to sell Matthias and Stern on their tech for Façade. Maybe you don't want all the voice lines to be generated, but wouldn't it be cool if you could type in literally anything of your name and Trip and Grace could say it instead of having to pick from a list? Wouldn't that improve the experience? And now I want you to think hard. What do you say to that? Because I say no, absolutely not. When I play Façade, I don't want Trip and Grace to call me Jules in the most flat affectation possible. When I play Façade, I am
Gonzalo! Gonzalo.
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 Gonzalo. Gonzalo.